Schedule a Zoom with me at gcexperts.com/Zoom.
Yeah, that'll work great. Nice
Okay.
to meet you, Shannon.
Hey, you too, Sean. I've watched, I don't know, probably 3 hours of your videos in the last 12 or so hours. So I feel like I know you already.
Well, I never know what people watch prior to coming into these things. Tell me what you learned.
I learned quite a bit. I think I said in my, question when I submitted the request that we've done a little bit of government contracting, but I don't think I understood exactly what that meant until I watched your videos. Most of our stuff, I think, has been through the state government. We've had a, what do you call it? SAM's unique identifying number. We needed we needed it for a contract through the Department of Veteran Affairs
Okay.
on a military base, but that's a state entity. So contract was actually through the state, but we still had to have our SAM's registration in place.
It was probably federally funded and administered by the state.
Okay.
And in order to, and it's not specifically your UEI number, it's something called a cage code.
Yeah. So I paid a company because I could not figure out how to get our stuff set up. So I paid a company, I think it was like $1,500 to just get us registered and get us set up so we could get that contract.
Isn't it funny in the construction industry, if we don't understand something, we throw money at it?
It's either that or spend 2 months trying to figure it out. So I learned a lot, actually. A lot of the questions that I had, you went over. Others had similar questions, so actually I learned quite a bit.
Good. Well, I'm imagining that, being in the construction industry, particularly doing state contracts, you must have loved the part about no risk federal contracting.
Yes. Yeah. Because in fact, I just turned one down last week. I did a withdrawal form because I learned after the fact of some issues that we didn't know about. But that was my only option. I could either accept it or I could withdraw. So
yeah. I always say that anybody in the construction industry, if they're really a contractor, if they tune into that, and they'll, get a lot out of that video. So, with all that said, I'll answer any question you want to know.
Okay. Well, I'm definitely on board. We'd like to pursue this as a part of our business, or maybe even most of our business. We're a small company. I have two sons that work with me, and my wife does the books. And we usually hire, a dozen or so guys, depending on what projects we have. But one of the questions I had is if I wanted to have them participate in the training, but we needed to each have a membership, or how would that work if we wanted to do it?
No, you just use the same username and password. And obviously, I worked almost my entire career side by side with my dad. And so I would say not only do we allow it, it's encouraged.
Okay.
And I've just got a soft spot for any dad that encourages his kids to follow in this path.
Okay, that's awesome. No, I think it'd be great. I'm excited to learn more, and I really appreciated. Again, I think I said, well, I don't know how to use the SAMS thing, and you've already built a system to work through that, so that's huge for help. So that's great.
Not only that, but when you call here, you get a real person that can help you.
That would be great too. We subscribe to a local plans. They call it Plans Room, and it's just a kind of a clearinghouse for projects within our region, within the state. But even as small as that is, I can hardly ever get someone on the phone if I have a problem. So,
yeah, down here we don't sleep until problems are solved.
Great. Well, you want to keep asking a few more questions, right? You've already answered some of them, but.
Well, I mean, look, this is your chance.
Okay.
So you got my full attention.
One of the things I was going to ask about, you kind of touched on this with one of your other interviews, but I've always had it in my mind we should focus on jobs that we know or we're familiar with, or we've got a background in that, or we have a sub that knows how to do that or something. But when I started to watch these, I started to realize, really it's a pretty big opportunity there. Do you have any, I guess, suggestions or recommendations on how we approach that? Do you just go for anything and everything, or do you really just kind of focus on what you're most comfortable with until you really start to learn more?
Anything and everything.
Is that right? Okay.
I can't stress that enough, because if you do enough different types of work, you can draw connections between them. And I'll give you an example. So we built a water tower for the Air Force eons ago. Well, if you look at a water tower, the kind that are on legs, if you look at it, what is a water tower? It's 4 steel poles attached at the ground and then welded to a tank at the top and some plumbing, right? But it's basically steel.
Right.
Well, we wanted to go after something called an ATON job. Now, most people, that word is foreign, but it stands for Aid to Navigation.
Okay.
So I want you to imagine you're a big ship, like a cargo carrying ship, and you're trying to navigate into port. And then just as you come into the channel, your GPS goes out. How the hell do you know if you're in the center of the channel? It's at night.
Yeah, I don't know.
So the Coast Guard, what they do is about 5 miles out, they put a steel platform and they drive pilings into the ground, and then they have a welded platform, and on the platform they put a big shining light heading out to the ocean. Then about 17 miles out, they build another one, so that as that ship is coming into the channel, he can line those 2 lights up visually, and he'll know he's in the center of the channel.
Okay.
Well, what happens to steel when you put it in salt water over a decade?
Corrodes.
Yeah, and they literally fall over. And when those contracts come out, they include, as part of the requirement, that you have to send a scuba diver down, and 100-foot radius around the pilings, you have to pick up any debris.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so we wanted to do one of these contracts. And so we made the argument to the contracting officer that if you look at what a water tower is and look at what an ATON is, it's basically the same thing, just one's in the ocean. It's steel.
Right.
And so we made the connection for the contracting officer where normally they wouldn't have considered us, and they did, and we got the job.
Huh. Very cool. Very cool.
Now, as a side note, in the workshop, I talk about the first ATON job we ever did. We lost 50 grand on it. But
learning curve there. Huh?
But there was a learning curve. The next year, the next ATON job, we made 250 grand on the next one.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So can I ask a follow-up? Is that part of maybe some of the strategy, is looking for those niches that are kind of weird, kind of hard, that maybe not everybody's trying to go after?
Not only niches, but also remote locations. Okay. Whereas normally in downtown, wherever you're from, a 3-ton air conditioner might go for less than $20,000 installed. The last 3-ton air conditioner we sold to the federal government, we sold it for $107,000. But that job was in Alaska. And the local HVAC guy charged me $15 to get it done. There was some duct work that needed to be done, but remote location.
Right. Well, so I'm in Alaska, and
okay.
We do remote work all over the state.
Sure.
So pretty familiar with that and the logistics, and it's a huge challenge.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what this business is getting in between what the federal government is spending money on and the guys that can do the work.
Right. Do you find over time that you start to build maybe a network of contractors that you continue to use in different regions and that sort of thing?
That's a common question. And I understand that normally in your business, the idea is I've got this group, this network, and if something needs to be done over here, I know the guy, I can call him, negotiate the deal, and move forward, right? And if we screw one up, I'll get you on the next one. And it's not that we didn't have a network like that when we were in the thick of it. It wasn't quite the way that you would do it as a even a state contractor in the state of Alaska, because really up in that part of the country, or even in that part of the world, relationships are a huge part of business success. It's not quite that way in the lower 48, because we teach you several methodologies in the workshop on how to find the right guy to be doing the job. As an example, a plumbing job, you call the local plumbing supply house and you ask him, hey, who's the guy that's coming in there 3 times a week? He just seems to be buying more stuff than anybody else. Can I get his phone number and go talk to that guy? If he can't get it done, he'll know exactly who can. And not only that, but in the construction business, the landscape is always changing. Excuse me. The landscape is always changing. Companies come into business, companies go out of business, particularly in the trades. Because most people in the trades, they were doing it for somebody else and then decided that they wanted to start their own thing to do it for themselves, become an entrepreneur. The more I work, the more I make, right?
Right.
And then after 3 years in business, they throw the towel in because it's not quite working out the way, construction businesses don't come with manuals. I don't know if you noticed.
Yeah. Right. Maybe another question is, so just looking at those videos, it looks like there's kind of 2 different types of jobs. There's a lot of those smaller 100 to 50,000, and you could focus on that. Or if you stepped up, I think you mentioned this a little bit, the difference between your strategy and maybe even your dad's strategy. When you start getting to those larger $8 million, $10 million projects, it would seem like you're competing with primes that do that as a normal part of their, that's their normal business, big.
It is. And the construction business is always going to be competitive at every level, some level of competition.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is, if you just look at the numbers, my dad taught me at an early age, numbers don't lie. And so let's talk about the numbers. How many entities like yourself do you think are registered in sam.gov?
Well, I think from what I remember from your videos, there's about 25,000 total, but I don't know about the.
Hold on a second. I'm not including people who sell cake mix to the Navy in that 25,000.
Okay.
Okay. How many entities do you think are registered with sam.gov to do business with the federal government?
I have no idea, I guess.
Okay. It's about 1.2 million.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay. Now, they're segregated by NAICS codes. Are you familiar with the concept of NAICS codes?
Yeah. Is that the, I think we have one maybe for like concrete construction or.
That's right. They're segregated. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that cake mix are searching for cake mix contracts. If you sell wrestling mats, that's a different NAICS code than bullets. Okay.
Okay.
Or aircraft parts. If you look at the construction NAICS codes, that whittles down the competition for federal contracts from 1.2 million to 25,000.
Okay.
Okay. Now, let's talk about the number of contractors, construction contractors, that are actually getting federal contracts. Do you think that number is 25,000?
I would imagine no.
That's right.
Because like we're registered and I don't think we've never had one. So
that's right. In fact, here's the real numbers. So a pretty smart guy in my program about 2 years ago calls me up on Monday morning, went through the workshop, and he said, Sean, I don't care if that number is 25,000, 14,000, or 40,000. Can you tell me how many registered federal construction contractors there are today? He's alluding to, I want to understand the competition.
Right.
Same question you had. So I said, sure, it's public information. Let me get back to you. So I get with my tech team and I said, hey, go find the number today. A couple hours later, he calls me up and he says, Sean, the number today is 23,780. I said, great. And he goes, whoa, whoa, whoa. What do you mean, whoa, whoa, whoa? He says, there's an interesting number here. Tell me about it. He said of the last 70,000 federal construction contracts awarded, they were only awarded to 3,000 of the 23,780. And I burst out laughing. He says, "Why are you laughing?" I said, "That's the whole reason we exist." If you Google, "how do I become a federal contractor?" it overwhelmingly says you have to be sam.gov registered. And some people figure that out, or they pay somebody or whatever. They get sam.gov registered. And then they look around and go, "Okay, I'm registered. Give me a federal contract." And it doesn't work that way.
Right.
I mean, it's the whole reason we exist, because we teach people how to get them, how to find them, how to negotiate them, how to perform them.
Right. Okay.
Oh, but to answer your question, the small ones versus the large ones. People
Yeah.
come into the business, and I always tell them, start with the small ones, because everything you learn on the small ones is going to apply to the larger ones as you grow into what you want to be as a federal contractor. So the smallest job I ever did was $7,000. The largest I ever did was $8 million. And I've done everything in between.
And when you're doing those larger ones, that's probably when you're having to dedicate maybe an on-site project manager or things like.
Oh, sure. As jobs grow, you're going to want more accountability, right?
Or with the smaller ones, you might not have to leave your office.
Most of them, I didn't leave the office.
Gotcha. Okay.
Way more than most. High percentages.
Okay. Well, I'm excited. I'm like we've had this registration for a couple of years, and like I said, I've dabbled. I tried to look and search a few things, and I found a few, and it's so convoluted. And then again,
It's not intuitive.
I was restricting my search to just my local area, where I thought we would self-perform those kind of things. So
sure, yeah, that's just not. I mean, it's not that can't be done. It's just that's not where the real money is.
Yeah. Yeah.
The real money is being a national federal contractor. It's the first thing I say in the workshop. Open up your book and write down, "I am a national federal government construction contractor." And by the way, there is no such thing as a national federal government. I made it up.
Right.
Okay? Because technically, you are a national federal government construction contractor. What is it about your company that makes you that?
Our registration, I guess.
That's all it is. It's a registration. If you're registered in SAM, congratulations. You're a national federal contractor of any kind. Really, you technically, can you sell cake mix to the Navy?
I guess.
I mean, technically you can. You're registered in SAM. You can be awarded federal contracts. It's just a mind shift.
Yeah. Can I ask a question about that? So if there are, do some of these contracts require that we submit like specialty licensing or things that?
This is my favorite question.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna light a light bulb in your head. We're gonna play a very simple game. It's like at a 5th grade level, so don't try to overthink me. You know what a SAM registration is. I'm going to give you the answer to the question before I ask you the question. Ready for the answer?
Okay.
SAM registration. Ready to play?
Yeah.
There is one thing and one thing only required to be a federal contractor, and that is a
SAM's registration.
So if you sell cake mix to the Navy so they can make cakes on ships, what do you need?
SAM's registration.
If you sell bullets or aircraft parts or even construction goods and services, what do you need?
SAM's registration.
Now we're going to play the other part of the game. I'm going to give you 3 scenarios. Scenario number 1. The transformer shall be replaced by a licensed electrician in the state of Alaska. Now, that has nothing to do with the company that got the job. All they needed was a SAM registration. But you would have to coordinate a licensed electrician to go out there and replace that transformer from the state of Alaska.
Okay.
Scenario number 2. The transformer shall be replaced by a licensed electrician. Well, now any licensed electrician from any state can go into Alaska and replace that transformer. Understand that this is federal eminent domain property. There's no such thing as a state inspector going on to a federal job.
Okay.
Again, nothing to do with the company that got the job.
Right. Right.
Scenario number 3, the transformer shall be replaced. That literally means that me and your 2 boys can go out there and replace that transformer on a Saturday.
Right.
It gets written all 3 ways all the time. You
Okay.
just have to read the requirements and comply with them. And that's how I can look you in the face and tell you I've done $1 billion worth of work for the federal government. I have never had a license of any kind other than a driver's license.
Okay. Okay.
I got a phone call, and I recorded it 2 days ago, from a woman named Vanetta in Indiana. And she said, hey, I'm looking into this construction thing. She says, I'm a notary, and I was looking on sam.gov to see if I can get some notary contracts, and I couldn't find anything in there. And so I was looking at this roofing job, and wouldn't you believe it? I got this roofing job, and then I just subcontracted it. And I'm sitting there going, are you shitting me? I said, you are probably the most remarkable person I've ever spoken to in any of my phone calls ever. Nobody told her she couldn't do it, so she just did.
That's awesome.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. I had a follow-up I was going to ask you. So I've done some federal contracts when I worked for a prime contractor, and I remember a big part of that was doing submittals and all those requirements.
Yep.
I'm assuming that all is still the case, and we would have subcontractors or our own folks have to do all that. I mean, that's still part of most of these contracts, correct?
Yes.
Schedules and all those types of things. Okay.
Yes. You're a little smarter than the average bear, at least that I talk to in these Zooms. So if you make a note when you go through the workshop, normally when someone joins the membership program, I have it scheduled automatically to deliver the project management course that I created for free about 90 days later. But there's absolutely no reason a guy like you should have to wait that 90 days. So when you join the membership program, just remind me, and I'll send you a link to the project management course where I teach submittals, schedules, and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
I think you'll benefit a lot from that.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be awesome. Okay. Boy, trying to think what else I have for you. You've answered really quite a number of them. Maybe just an entity question. This might be something more for the workshop, or I couldn't even talk to you about during that. But
Go ahead.
We just have an LLC, and I'm the sole owner, and so it doesn't really give us a lot of protection. But as far as federal contracts, is that satisfactory? Should we have a corporation to give us more protection, or do you have any?
You can do it as a sole proprietor, an LLC, corporation, any legal entity with the state can be registered with sam.gov. And I always tell people, just start with what you have. Names don't matter. I see all the time, AAA Electrical gets a roofing job. Right. AAA Notary gets a roofing job. Okay. Right. Names don't matter with the federal government. They don't make decisions based on names. Now, once you go through the workshop, you're at such a disadvantage to start. All contractors think about what they'll do with something once they get it. It's just built into our mindset, because if you're a flooring contractor and you don't own a saw and you're cutting these things by hand, you can imagine how much more efficient you would be if you were able to afford a saw.
Right.
And that's just built into all contractors. Any strategy stuff, I'm just going to suggest to you, hold off on any strategy thinking until you've been through the workshop. Then you'll be much better prepared to strategize.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Well, good. Well, I think that was my whole list of questions. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited to go through the training. Just kind of curious about, so I know you've got these, pre-recorded, But do you do any more live, sessions in the future? Or are you going to just stick with this platform, or?
Probably stick with this platform every year. And you'll notice this when you log in for the first time, the first 5 or 10 minutes of day one of the workshop, every year on January, the first week of January anyway, I re-record the introduction to the workshop and
Mm,
I give any updates. As an example, in the workshop, you're going to hear us talk about Fed BizOps. Well, Fed BizOps doesn't exist anymore. It's sam.gov,
right.
So I say, every time you hear us say Fed BizOps, just imagine that we're saying sam.gov. You're also going to hear us talk about PPIRS, Past Performance Information Retrieval System. That doesn't exist anymore. It's CPARS now. It's the same thing. They just changed the name. So I have about 5 to 10 minutes of updates um, in that first 5 minutes. And I do that every year as things change.
Okay. Okay.
But the
Great.
core stuff, the same forms that they've been using for 30 years, they're using today: 1442s, SF18s, 1449s, the technical, all the content and strategies that we teach in the workshop, none of that has changed.
Gotcha. Okay. Maybe could I ask you this? I watched your videos where you explained kind of the amount of money that's put into this pool, with different presidential administrations, Democratic, Obama, and Biden,
Mm-hmm.
put a bunch in there with Trump and the Doge cuts and all that.
Yeah, that's a great question.
How do things look right now, I guess, in that?
Yeah. So if you remember from the news, approximately how many buildings did Elon Musk close?
I don't think he closed any, did he?
I think he got rid of about 10 buildings.
Okay.
Do you know how many buildings the federal government owns, operates? They refer to them as structures rather than, in other words, they have buildings and they have structures, but combined, what that number is?
I think from one of your videos, it was like 1 million or something like that.
960,000.
Yeah. Okay. So not that much of an impact then, sounds like.
There's not that much of an impact. The numbers have always been the numbers, and they've always been the same year to year. I mean, minor variances, but we're talking 1-2%. We're not talking any significant changes.
Okay. Good. So,
Yep.
um, with regard to your cyclical curve demonstration with the economy, and
Mhm.
is the federal market not as impacted, would you say? Is it more of a stable?
The reason that yes, stable. Again, I'm going to refer back to, you're smarter than the average bear, and I can tell that, so I can have a conversation with you at a different level than I normally have these conversations. The whole purpose of me doing that graph, it's not that it's true, like I'm not blowing smoke up anybody's ass, but I'm trying to get somebody to change their perspective when they're thinking about where the real money is. Okay. That's that.
Mhm.
When you think about when someone's really looking at those numbers, what I'm really trying to say is, without saying it, is that this business is recession proof. The problem with saying that it's recession proof is you sound like every idiot that's ever advertised anything in the world. We're recession proof. Come on down. It immediately sounds, everybody's spam radar pops up.
Right. Yep. No, I could see that where it would be fairly consistent, stable, and there's probably some upticks, like you say, when Obama injects $100 million or $100 billion or something. But
Well, that was a huge problem. I mean, it was a problem that my dad looked at and said, geez, that just tells you right there's not enough good federal contractors. And by the way, I've seen that if you don't get a federal contract, you had to renew your SAM registration. You told me that you registered more than 2 years ago, right?
I think we renewed it maybe this last year. I had to pay that same company again.
That's my point. You renewed. Okay.
Yeah.
By the way, we charge $700 for a SAM registration, and in some cases, the renewal is like $200 or $300 or something. Regardless, you renewed. But you hadn't gotten a federal contract. Why did you renew?
In case we did.
Okay. You going to renew next year if you don't get any federal contracts?
Probably so.
How many years in a row are you going to do that before you go, there's no money in there for me?
Yeah, probably soon. If we don't use it,
Okay.
no point in keeping it going.
My point being that people renew or they don't renew. And if most people, if the numbers that I'm telling you are accurate, only 3,000 are getting them, how many people do you think are not renewing? A bunch, right?
Right.
Okay. So you got new guys coming in and old guys dropping off all the time. I've seen that number as low as 22,000. I've seen it as high as 27,000. But on average, it's about 25,000 a year.
Gotcha.
Makes sense, right?
Right.
Okay. And so that's the exercise right there. My dad looked at that and went, 25,000 can't even do all the money that they're putting out. So we need more federal contractors. That was the genesis of GCExperts.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. I think you've covered most everything I can think of. I really appreciate it. I'm glad that you guys are doing this, frankly. That the company that I did our registration through, I found it through my brother because he's an electrical contractor and he's been using them. And I emailed them and said, hey, besides this registration, can you guys provide any training so we can figure out how to use this SAM system because it's so convoluted? And they replied with, we really don't provide that. We can help you get your like your hub zone status or something like that. And the same thing, they want like $700 or $800 for each of those little endorsements.
That's all the little set aside stuff.
Yeah.
This is the biggest problem with all these companies because what they are you familiar with the concept puppy mill?
Yeah.
Okay. What they're doing is hiring somebody, teaching them how to get companies SAM registered. Hey, you need to be sam.gov registered so you can get federal contracts.
Right.
And then they take that person, they say, when the next new guy comes, you teach them how to do sam.gov registrations. Okay, so they're creating a puppy mill of sam.gov or people that can get you sam.gov registered. Okay, and then they're just calling as many companies as they can to get them SAM. None of these people have any understanding, have ever done a federal contract, have any understanding of what it actually takes to get a federal contract. It's a scourge, whatever, it's embarrassing.
Yeah. Yep. No, I'm excited. I think this is great. I again appreciate that you guys did this for the contracting community, frankly. So.
It was a heck of an undertaking, let me tell you, because I mean, if you had to go into a room of 30 people and teach for 2 hours, like it can be anything that you're a subject matter expert in. It can be fishing. What would you teach for 2 hours?
Just what you've done, I guess.
Oh, no, I'm asking you personally.
Oh, if I was going to teach a course for 2 hours on fishing?
No. What subject would you teach if you had to teach a course for 2 hours this afternoon?
Geez, I don't know. Probably construction because that's
construction.
my life doing it.
Great. Okay. Now, can you imagine that you could probably speak for 2 hours about construction?
Yeah, probably so.
Okay. Could you do it for 8?
I'd probably run out of things to say after 2.
Could you do it for 10? Could you make it into 3 days and keep it as engaging as my conversation has been with you?
That'd be a struggle.
It was difficult to put something together that would be engaging for every level of the construction industry. Like there might be a part of the workshop where you look at that and you go, oh, that's obvious and that probably doesn't apply. I probably already know that. That's okay. Keep listening because in the next hour, we're going to be covering some high level shit that you ain't never heard of before.
Right.
Okay. You're welcome that we put this. It was a lot of work to really think about what it takes to really be successful in this industry.
Yeah. Good. Well, great. That's all I can think of to ask you for now. I'm ready to sign up and start going through the class and get started. Um,
Okay. Well, I'm imagining by now my team would have sent you a link. I hit the yes button on you. So you should get a text message that says pleasure talking to you.
yeah, I saw it pop up on my phone when we were talking here.
Yep. So you're good to go.
Okay.
This is my opportunity to hit the no button. I don't know who's going to pop in these things. And most of the people I click no.
All right. Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to it, and I'm especially looking forward to the after discussions. After we learn a little more and have some
Oh,
questions.
imagine the conversations that your kids are going to have with me.
I'm looking forward to it. They're excited. We're excited. We've been doing it the hard way for 7 years, so we're excited to kind of change course here.